Hello everybody and welcome back to every card in Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel. Today we've got 10 Dark Magician extra deck monsters to look at, and make sure to stick around for numbers 8 and 9 on this list, which were only added in a recent update. This is where the archetype really gets cooking, so let us get into it. And first up today is Amulet Dragon, which is a dark level 8 dragon fusion monster with 2900 attack and 2500 defense. Its materials are Dark Magician and 1 dragon effect monster, and its effect is must be fusion summoned with the above fusion materials or with the Eye of Timaeus. If this card is special summoned, target any number of spells in any graveyards, min 1. Banish those targets, and if you do, this card gains 100 attack for each card banished by this effect. If this card is destroyed, you can target one spellcaster monster in your graveyard, special summon that target. I love this card, not because it's particularly powerful, but just because it's really fun to banish every spell card from both graveyards. Dueling with the same deck over and over can be very repetitive, so I sometimes like to give myself bonus quests, such as seeing how many spells I can banish with this card's odd summon effect, and this can of course boost Amulet's dragon attack to some pretty high numbers. The main reason that this card doesn't really see any play is that if you have the materials to summon Amulet Dragon, you have far better alternative choices, and one of those is the second card on this list, Dark Magician the Dragon Knight. It's a dark level 8 dragon fusion effect monster with 3000 attack and 2500 defense. Its materials are Dark Magician and 1 dragon monster, and its effect is this card's name becomes Dark Magician while on the field or in the graveyard. Your opponent cannot target spells, traps you control with card effects, also they cannot be destroyed by your opponent's card effects. In my opinion, Dark Magician the Dragon Knight completes the well-oiled machine that is a perfectly functioning Dark Magician strategy. It's treated as the Dark Magician on the field and in the graveyard, meaning it can be special summoned by many cards within the archetype, including Eternal Soul. I covered Eternal Soul last video, and I mentioned that when it's on the field with Dark Magic Circle, you can special summon Dark Magician once per turn and banish one of your opponent's cards. The fact that Dark Magician the Dragon Knight essentially becomes the Dark Magician as soon as it's fusion summoned and protects your back row whilst on the field really makes this the cherry on top of it all. This one isn't necessarily flashy like Amulet Dragon, but it's such a consistently reliable option that it comes out far ahead in my books. The third card on today's list is Dark Cavalry, which is a dark level 8 spellcaster fusion effect monster with 2800 attack and 2300 defense. Its materials are Dark Magician and 1 warrior monster, and its effect is gains 100 attack for each spell trap on the field and in the graveyards. If this card attacks a defense position monster, inflict piercing battle damage. When a card or effect is activated that targets a card on the field, quick effect, you can discard one card, negate the activation, and if you do, destroy it. Much like Gaia the Fierce Knight in the anime, this card feels like the awkward tag-along of the bunch. Not bad by any means, just a little mismatched with the rest of the monsters in that clique. One really cool thing, however, is that Gaia has had a bunch of retrains of basically every extra deck summoning mechanic now, and none of them are really considered meta, especially in Master Duel, but they make great callbacks to the Duel Monsters anime. What about this monster's effect though? Well, it matches one of the recurring themes in the archetype in gaining 100 attack for every spell trap in the game, and it importantly has a negate. We've talked about the fact that negates are key, and this is as well, but it does specifically state that a card on the field needs to be targeted, and you need a card to discard. We'll see other examples of negates which are more generic, for want of a better word, than this card. Piercing damage isn't as much of a game changer, but it does contribute a little to the threat level of Dark Cavalry. And fourthly, it's one of the most iconic fusion monsters in the archetype, that being the Dark Magicians, which is a dark level 8 spellcaster fusion effect monster with 2800 attack and 2300 defense. Its materials are 1 Dark Magician or Dark Magician Girl and 1 spellcaster monster, and its effect is once per turn, if a spell trap card or effect is activated, except during the damage step, you can draw 1 card, then if it was a spell trap, you can set it, and if it was a trap or quick play spell, you can activate it this turn. If this card is destroyed, you can special summon both 1 Dark Magician and 1 Dark Magician Girl from your hand, deck and or graveyard. We are now locked in and on a run of some absolutely brilliant fusion monsters. It's pretty difficult to summarize how powerful a quick effect that draws a card every turn is. CD go talk a heat soul for more on that, but there are importantly loads of spells and traps in the Dark Magician archetype, and if you manage to get the Dark Magicians out, you'll almost definitely be able to activate another card to trigger this draw effect. If you go first to get this monster out on your first turn, you'll likely be able to activate this effect during the first and second turn, and whilst drawing a card doesn't sound like much on its own, the power of such an effect compounds the more consecutive turns you can activate it during. This card does something even cooler too, and that is that it gives you a reason to run the original Dark Magician Girl, as its floating effect can only activate if you can summon both Dark Magician and Dark Magician Girl. It's great too, as it can even summon them from the deck, which is always powerful and just gives another reason to run the Dark Magicians. Next up is one of the most iconic boss monsters in the game. Red Eye's Dark Dragoon is a dark level 8 spellcaster fusion effect monster with 3000 attack and 2500 defense. Its materials are Dark Magician and Red Eye's Black Dragon, all 1 dragon effect monster, and its effect is cannot be destroyed by card effects. Neither player can target this card with card effects. During your main phase, you can destroy one monster your opponent controls, and if you do, inflict damage to your opponent equal to that monster's original attack. You can use this effect a number of times per turn up to the number of normal monsters used as fusion material for this card. Once per turn, when a card or effect is activated, quick effect, you can discard one card, negate the activation, and if you do, destroy that card. And if you do that, this card gains 1000 attack. This monster acts as a love letter to the Yu-Gi-Oh manga and Duel Monsters anime, with Dark Magician and Red Eye's Black Dragon being the boss monsters of Yugi and Joey respectively. Designed to be a power player in the modern meta, Red Eye's Dark Dragoon has nothing but brilliant effects. First off, it has some all-important targeting protection, with Eternal Soul only preventing Dark Magician itself from being targeted. If you want to make a really difficult to remove ace monster, this is one of the best picks. Its ability to destroy a monster and deal burn damage provides another way to work towards dismantling your opponent's board, and it's one of those effects which rewards you for using normal monsters, namely Dark Magician or Red Eye's Black Dragon. Like Dark Cavalry, it has a once per turn negate for the cost of discarding a card. It's more efficient than Dark Cavalry though, as it doesn't need to be an effect which targets a card on the field, and can be used in response to the activation of any card or effect, with the 1000 point attack boost being another mild advantage. How does this all play out in Master Duel? Well, as we're seeing, there's no shortage of powerful fusion monsters available in the Dark Magician archetype, and whilst this is one of the most consistently good options, it depends on your situation as to whether this is the monster you want to summon. A generic negate is good, but if you're not going to have a card to discard in order to activate it, then it might be preferable to summon Dark Magician the Dragon Knight instead, which will protect your back row and be protected by Eternal Soul in return. If you don't have an opponent's monster to target and destroy, but are instead working against a particularly powerful spell card, you may well prefer Timaeus the United Magical Dragon, a card I'll be talking about in more detail. Overall, Red Eye's Dark Dragoon is one of the quintessential boss monsters in Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel. I'm also a huge fan of this monster's artwork. It's not easy to capture the essence of two such old school Yu-Gi-Oh! Cards, but the Magician with the Black Dragon armor just looks awesome. It also has one of those brilliant special summon animations. The next card is a fusion monster which combines the power of the Chaos and Dark Magician monsters. Master of Chaos is a Dark level 8 spellcaster fusion effect monster with 3000 attack and 2500 defense. Its materials are Dark Magician and one Chaos or Blackluster Soldier ritual monster, and its effect is, if this card is fusion summoned, you can target one light or dark monster in your graveyard. Special summon it. You can tribute one light and one dark monster, banish all monsters your opponent controls. If this fusion summoned card is destroyed by battle or card effect, you can target one spell in your graveyard, add it to your hand. You can only use each effect of Master of Chaos once per turn. This monster is a brilliant extender due to its ability to special summon a monster from the graveyard, and whilst it may not be immune from destruction whilst on the field, it can still be a good option to go for in certain situations. I talked about a lot of the Chaos cards in the last video, and it's not really a single archetype, but the general theme is the harnessing of the power of light and dark monsters, so it's fitting that Master of Chaos has two powerful effects that do this. Board wipe effect is really powerful, as banishment is one of the most consistent forms of removal, and it can even offer itself as one of the tributes to activate this effect. And of course, its floating effect, which adds a spell card to hand, can be very useful. It reminds me of Magician of Black Chaos, which can of course be used as one of the materials for Master of Chaos. Seventh up for this video is Dark Magician the Knight of Dragon Magic, and it is a Dark level 8 dragon fusion effect monster with 2900 attack and 2400 defense. Its materials are Dark Magician and one level 7 or higher dragon or warrior monster, and its effect is, if your monster attacks a defense position monster, inflict piercing battle damage to your opponent. Once per turn, when your monster destroys an opponent's monster by battle, you can inflict damage to your opponent equal to the destroyed monster's original attack. If this card is destroyed, you can special summon both one Dark Magician and one Gaia the Dragon Champion from your hand, deck, extra deck, and or graveyard. Another monster which has its roots in the old school Yu-Gi-Oh! Anime and manga, this is effectively a fusion of Gaia the Dragon Champion and Dark Magician. Gaia the Dragon Champion itself is of course already a fusion of the two normal monsters, Curse of Dragon and Gaia the Fierce Knight, and much like Dark Cavalry, we see these monsters' fused forms embody an effect which deals piercing damage. Much like Red Eye's Dark Dragoon, we see an effect which can deal an opponent's monster's attack as burn damage, but this doesn't tend to be a game winner very often, as duels are very rarely about getting a single monster with a huge amount of attack on the board. Its floating effect is also decent, consistent, especially as it can summon the two monsters from pretty much anywhere. It's worth noting that this effect doesn't state that you can ignore the summoning conditions, which means Gaia the Dragon Champion will have to have been fusion summoned correctly at some point in the duel so far. The next card has been all the rage recently, with its release in Master Duel and the TCG being coordinated at the same time. Dark Magician of Destruction is a Dark level 8 spellcaster fusion effect monster with 2800 attack and 2600 defense. Its materials are Dark Magician and one light or dark monster, and its effect is must be either fusion summoned or special summoned from your extra deck during the turn a spell card or effect is activated by banishing one level 6 or higher dark spellcaster monster you control as material. You can only special summon Dark Magician of Destruction once per turn this way, no matter which method you use. This card's name becomes Dark Magician while on the field or in the graveyard. If this card is special summoned, you can add one Dark Magician or one card that mentions it from your deck to your hand. This monster is actually pretty easy to get out, with plenty of high level dark spellcaster monsters being available to banish for its summon, and the prerequisite of having activated a spell card being nothing short of a formality in this archetype. It's another card which is treated as Dark Magician on the field and in the graveyard, meaning it can be special summoned with Eternal Soul and can trigger Dark Magical Circle's banish effects. Its search basically adds any card from the archetype to hand without discriminating between monster, spell and trap, and these effects all combine to make a really solid boss monster without it feeling overpowered. Essentially, it fills a role that was welcome in the archetype, that being one that is consistent and reliable. As this incarnation of the Dark Magician was added to the game, so was a new Timaeus card, that being the 9th card for this video. Timaeus the United Magical Dragon is a light level 10 dragon fusion effect monster with 2800 attack and 1800 defense. Its materials are Dark Magician or Dark Magician Girl and one dragon or spellcaster monster, and its effect is, after this card is special summoned, it is unaffected by other cards' effects until the end of your next turn. You can only use each of the following effects of Timaeus the United Magical Dragon once per turn. If this card battles during damage calculation, you can make this card gain 100 attack for each spell in the graveyards and banishment. During your opponent's turn, quick effect, you can target one spell trap on the field, destroy it. I briefly touched on this monster in a previous episode and how its effects are a bit like Amulet Dragon combined with Dark Magician Girl the Dragon Knight. Its 2-turn immunity to card effects is another welcome addition and adds up to a fair portion of many duels, especially in the context of Master Duel. It's a bit off level with the rest of the fusion options, being a level 10 compared to many of the options being a level 8, but this doesn't really affect things. It's not like there are many Xyz monsters to overlay into. It also adds another dragon to the archetype, which piques my curiosity as to how a Dark Magician and Blue Eyes White Dragon deck would work these days. There are many overlaps between the Magicians and the White Dragons. Finally for today, it's the incredible Quintet Magician, which is a Dark level 12 spellcaster fusion effect monster with 4500 attack and defense. Its materials are 5 spellcaster monsters, and its effect is must be fusion summoned. If this card is fusion summoned using 5 spellcaster monsters with different names, you can destroy all cards your opponent controls. This face-up card on the field cannot be tributed, nor used as fusion material, also it cannot be destroyed by card effects. There really isn't much reason to summon Quintet Magician in an everyday duel, but if you have a spare slot in your extra deck, it's definitely worth adding this card in. It checks the box for Rule of Cool, much like some of the incredible Blue Eyes boss monsters that I covered when I looked at that archetype. Fusion summoning Quintet Magician with 5 different spellcaster monsters feels so flashy that, to be honest, by the time you summon it this way, you've probably got a way clear to your opponent's monsters anyway. Still, it's one of my favourite board wipe effects, and it's got a lot of unique abilities too, including not being able to be tributed, meaning it's one of the very few monsters which can't be outed by something like a Kaiju or Lava Gold. I think it would be interesting in future to see more of these hyper boss monsters, ones that are tough to summon but yield incredible benefits. And that is everything for this video, and I can now mark the Dark Magician archetype as complete. Until the second I upload this and realise I've missed a load of cards. Seriously though, if I ever do miss anything or make any mistakes, feel free to leave a comment and I'll attempt to address it in the future. Having covered the Blue Eyes and Dark Magician cards, next I'm going to look at the rest of the Chaos cards, along with the iconic Blackluster Soldier archetype. If you've enjoyed this video, then maybe leave a like, it does so much to help the channel, and if you've not subscribed yet, then smash that subscribe button so you don't miss out on any future episodes. I'll be back next week with part 13. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.